Hello everyone. Well, tonight I'm making the family lasagna and I will have a video about that up there. But I want some bread to go with it, so I am making a rustic skillet type of sourdough. So I'm going to bring you along and show you how I do it. It's a bit different from my regular sourdough loaves. So I got this recipe from northwestsourdough.com, so please check them out. It's really good videos on sourdough. So let me get set up and I'll show you how to do this. Alright, first we're going to start, and again we weigh everything out. And we're going to start with our sourdough starter. And this is fed and it is beautiful. So I'm going to add 300 grams of this. This is a lot, but because we're not going to wait all night for this to be ready to make the loaves, you need that extra sourdough. You need that extra leavening. So 300 grams. And again, this is really active and beautiful starter. Okay. $2.99, and with what I have on there, that should be good. And then I'll feed this and have it ready for the next baking. And it calls for water, but I just made Gervais cheese. So I'm going to use the whey from that. So I'm going to zero out my scale. I'm going to tare it, and it calls for 150 grams of water. Okay. That will go back in the refrigerator. And it also calls for either evaporated milk or cream. And I just got through Christmas baking. I still have cream. So I'm going to use 60 grams, zero the scale. I've never made it with the whey or with the cream. I've used the evaporated milk. And it came out wonderful. 60 grams. That will go back to the refrigerator. And this dough also calls for butter. So I have 30 grams of melted butter. And this bread is good for those times when you don't plan ahead and make your dough the night before. I did feed it ahead of time, but I didn't get the dough made and in the refrigerator like I normally do. So let's zero that out again. And then this calls for 15 grams of sugar. Okay. Now I'm going to mix this together. Let's see if you can see that. I have a new camera, so you have to pardon me if it's not quite on target where I want it to be. So I got a new camera for Christmas and I'm still figuring out how to use it. So you just want to mix it so that everything's broken up. I'm not going to mix it thoroughly. All right, back on the scale and tear it out again. Now it calls for 400 grams of flour, and I like the mixture of bread flour and all-purpose flour. So I'm going to use 200 grams of bread flour. And yes, I could have weighed this out ahead of time, but this is just easier and it's one less dish to wash. $200 grams. And I'm not even going to tear the scale out because it's a total amount anyway, so now I'm going to add 200 grams of all-purpose flour. So my scale is going to read 400. And we're at 400. And the other difference is with my normal baguettes, I add the salt after 2 hours. With this one, we're not going to do that. So zero out the scale again. And I'm going to put 10 grams of salt. Grams. All right, now I'm going to get this back down here and move the scale out of the way. And start mixing it with my dough whisk. Okay, time to wet my hands. And again, just like with the baguettes, the different types that I've made videos on before, and I'll leave a link for those. I want to make sure I get all of this from the edges and corners mixed in. We don't want dry bits that'll get hard. And your best tool is your hands. So get in there and just really get this combined. I'm not even sure if you could see this again with my new camera. I have no idea. That may be a little bit better. Okay. We're not kneading it, we're just really want to get it well combined. Okay, And we're going to flatten this out as best we can. Good enough. Now I'm going to cover this, and I'd like to keep it a little bit warm, so I'm actually going to put this over my range with a very low oven going. And then I'm going to come back and fold this every 30 minutes, at least 5 times. So let me get this going. I'll bring you back for one fold, probably the final one. No, I'll probably do the first one. All right, it's been 30 minutes. And if I can get this lid to pop off, I have my hands wet so that I can work with the dough. Get them a little more wet. Okay, so now 30 minutes have passed, and if you've seen my dough before, after 2 hours it's relaxed a bit. This has relaxed slightly, but not as much. So this is what it looks like right now, and I'm still going to stretch and fold, just like in my other videos. And again, I'll link those for you. Stretch and fold, and do this 4 directions. All right. Gather as much together as I can and flatten it. Okay, now I'm going to do that at least 4 more times, maybe 5. I'm just going by when it really feels elastic and it feels like it's totally ready to rise. You'll get to know the feel because each time you fold this, it's going to be more elastic. It's going to have a totally different feel, and at the last fold, you can stretch it kind of a fair amount, and you should be able to pull it and it get very thin. And that's what you're looking for. So I'm going to set my timer again and do this at least 4 more times. And when I'm ready to shape the loaves, I'll bring you back. All right. I've turned this dough 5 times and let it rest another 30 minutes. And now it's time to pre-shape the dough. First of all, we're gonna just lightly shape it and let it rest. I had to bribe the dogs to leave me alone long enough to do this. They're bored. Okay, there's the dough. It's looking beautiful. Okay, move that out of the way. Now we are going to make a boule, the ball shape. So we're going to just pre-shape it into a ball. We're not going to do the final shaping, but we want to get it started. So just gather up from the rough, you're on the rough side, and you're going to pull up the edges and pinch it together. And we're just going to use our hands to scoot under it and turn it. All right. Now I'm going to cover that with plastic. And then we're going to let this sit about 20 minutes. And the plastic is mostly to keep it from drying out because it's really dry here. So I'm going to set the timer and I'll come back in 20 minutes to do the final shaping. All right, it's been 20 minutes. I'm going to take the plastic off, and it's just doing its thing over here. It's risen some already. So now we're just going to do the final shaping. And this is the top. You want the smooth part on the top. And I'm using rice flour on the board. And you just want to get a really tight skin on this. And some really big bubbles like this, you're going to pop. Just like all sourdough, you want a nice crumb, you want some bubbles inside, you want some air pockets, but you don't want big holes. So just pop those. And this one has a few of those big bubbles, which means that yeast has been just happy as anything. So just keep turning it until you get a nice smooth shape that you're satisfied with. Now I'm going to let that sit for a minute, and I have a Banneton here, which is, it's a woven basket. I'm not sure if it's reeds or what it is, but we want to flour it really well with rice flour. And all of these ridges help the bread to rise, and it holds on to it so it doesn't fall back. So that's going to sit there, and I'm going to work this just a little more. And I think that looks good. So now what I'm going to do, this is going to be the top of the bread. So we're going to put the top down in the Banneton. And then we're going to pinch it closed. And then we're going to take that plastic again and cover it up. First, I think I'm going to put more rice flour on top so it won't stick. All right, back to a warm spot. Now I'm going to let this rise about 2 hours. It's probably going to fill this Banneton. It's probably been about 2.5 to 3 hours because everything kind of got slowed down with the lasagna. So this bread dough is really, really high. So I'm going to peel the plastic off the top. Normally it doesn't get quite this high, but again, I let it sit a little bit longer. So doesn't that look beautiful? All right, so now I'm going to put a little bit of the rice flour on top, and I'm going to put some cornmeal. And this is a fine cornmeal, because we are going to turn this upside down to transfer it to the oven. And we're going to use a pizza peel. And I'm going to put some on there because I don't want this sticking. So there it is. Now I'm going to take my lamb, again, fancy razor blade. It's that fridge thing. And I'm going to score the loaf. And now I'm going to put this in the Dutch oven in the oven. That's about the best view I can give you. Now I'm going to take this and slide it in to the Dutch oven. Now the key to this is to spray it with water. Okay, I'm spraying with water, and then as quick as I can, I'm going to cover this with the bottom half of this Dutch oven. And that will create a steam chamber. So now I'm going to let that cook for 20 minutes covered, and then I am going to remove the cover and let it cook for about another 20 minutes. And here is that beautiful loaf of bread after 20 minutes covered and 20 minutes uncovered. And this is really a tasty bread, and it's so simple. So I hope you give it a try. And thank you for watching, and thank you for visiting Vickie's Country Home. We'll talk again soon.